Okay, so hello and thank you for watching today's video. This week we are going to practice describing events. We're going to do Unit 6. You can see that this starts on page 36 and we will study from page 36 to page 41. So, if you look first at the title, you can see, he'd never been abroad. So this title is saying he had never been abroad. Abroad is another country. So in this title, he had never been to another country. He had never been to another country. And for today's video, we will be practicing describing events and using the past perfect to talk about some travel events. So using the past perfect, we are saying he had plus the past participle. So he had never been abroad. He had never eaten raw fish. So we use the past perfect when we want to show that one event in the past took place before another event. So this, he had never been abroad, it shows the early event, and we can use the simple past to signal a later event. So for example, last year he went to Italy. It was his first time to go to another country. So we can say he had never been abroad until he went to Italy. Or I went to a party. The party started at 6 p.m. I arrived at 6:30. So I can say, when I arrived, the party had already started. So for 30 minutes, the party had started. So we're going to use past perfect to describe events. And with that in mind, let's get started. So if you look on page 36, you can see a picture. The picture shows an airport check-in line. And we can see many different people. Number 1 is the baby. Number 2 is a man wearing a red hoodie. Number 3 is the check-in desk officer. Number 4, there is a girl listening to music and reading a magazine or a book. She's sitting on her suitcase. And number 5 is the airport baggage worker. It's a baggage worker. And number 6, he's running. He must be late. He has his ticket. And he's running fast to catch an airplane. So we have a passenger. So let's look at number 1. We can talk about some different ways to describe them. So how do they feel, or what are they doing? So angry, in a hurry, noisy, patient, cheerful, and careless. So let's look at number 1. So the mom and the baby. If you have a book, you can see the picture better. This man looks very angry. Why is he angry? The baby is crying very loudly. The baby is noisy. Noisy. So, number 1, the crying baby is a very noisy baby. Number 2, there's a man, his hoodie is red, his hand is in the air, his face is red, and he is shouting. Why is he shouting? Is he cheerful? No, he's very angry. He's very angry. I don't know why. Maybe he wanted to sit in first class, but he's not allowed. So he's very angry. And who is he shouting at? He's shouting at the desk clerk, the check-in desk clerk. She doesn't look angry. He's shouting at her, but she is smiling. She's very cheerful. Cheerful. Some people are always cheerful. The people in the line don't look happy because they're waiting a long time, so they don't look cheerful. But the check-in desk officers, they have big smiles because it's their job. So they are very cheerful. So going from 3, we can look back in this long line, and the young girl who is listening to her favorite music, she doesn't look upset. He looks upset. He is looking at his watch. This yellow-shirted man, he's looking at his watch. He doesn't like waiting. But she is comfortable sitting down, legs are stretched. She's reading a fun story and listening to her favorite music. She is very patient. So patient is when you don't mind waiting. This man is impatient. He wants everything fast, now, quickly, quickly. But she doesn't mind. She's okay. She's happy. Now, number 5, the man wearing the bright pants, the orange pants. Oh my gosh, what happened? He was putting the bag on the conveyor belt to go to the airplane, but oh my gosh, he dropped it, and many things are falling out. Toothbrush, teddy bear, clothes. He is very careless. Careless. So usually you tell people, be careful. Careless is the opposite of careful. So if you're driving, you should drive carefully. But some people, when they are driving, they check their text messages, Kakao Talk. Sometimes they play some phone game when they are driving, or they watch some video. They are careless. So he is careless. And the last person, he's late, like Alice, or like the rabbit in Alice. He's late, he's in a hurry. Hurry, so hurry up. Hurry up. Okay, so that is our picture part. If you look below the picture, you can see some words. Here we are going to practice using an adjective. So an adjective describes a noun. Sad man, happy girl. Hopeful student. And an adverb describes how something is being done. It changes the verb. So somebody cried sadly. The baby laughed happily. The student waited hopefully. So we can have the adjective and we change it to an adverb using ly. Sad, sadly. Happy. Happy already has a y, so we have to change the y to an I. Happily. Then we add the ly. So sad, sadly, happy, happily. And then if it ends with a vowel and an L, then LLY. Okay, let's try to change these adjectives to adverbs. So I'll do the first one, then you can pause and try to do the rest. So let's see, amazing, amazing. Amazing is like sad. So we just add ly. Amazingly, amazingly. So when somebody does something and it seems very, very difficult, but it happens. So the soccer player kicked the ball from 40 meters. Amazingly, he scored. Amazingly, he scored. So amazing. Angry ends in Y. So like happily, we have to change to ILY. Angrily. So in the picture before, the man with the red hoodie was angrily shouting at the desk clerk. Okay, if you press pause on the video and try to finish the rest of the words, changing them from an adjective to an adverb. Okay, press pause, and then when you finished, we'll come back. Okay, have you finished all changing the adjectives to adverbs? I hope so. We'll check the answers. So careless, we can just add ly, carelessly. So the baggage handler carelessly threw the bag, carelessly dropped the bag. Cheerful, cheerful, ul, so lly, cheerfully, cheerfully. The server cheerfully greeted the customer. Finally. Oh, I gave the answer straight away. Finally, LLY. So I waited a long time and finally the food arrived. Lucky. Lucky ends in a Y. Remember, happy, if it ends in a Y, and angry, it ends in a Y. Lucky, noisy, we just add ILY. So I waited a long time for my lunch to come out of the kitchen. Finally, after 40 minutes, the server brought a pizza. Luckily, it was very delicious. And I ate it noisily, like a mukbang show. I had to wait patiently, patiently. If you wait patiently, you don't complain. If you wait impatiently, you tap your watch and you want them to come very, very quickly. You don't like things coming slowly. So quick and quickly. I'll turn. Okay. Okay, so the food came very quickly. It's recording, yes. So the food came very quickly. I was very happy. Sudden. So sudden is when something happens very quickly. So suddenly. And the next one, surprising. I wasn't expecting something to happen. Or I went to an expensive restaurant, and surprisingly, when the bill came, it wasn't expensive. So surprisingly. And the last one, unfortunately. So this is when something is unlucky. Fortunate. Fortunate is very lucky. Unfortunate is unlucky. So I forgot to bring my pen, but fortunately, my friend gave me his pen to write with. Okay, so we have adjectives and adverbs. For the next exercise, we will do the listening. You can check page 37. There's a man and a woman. If you look in the picture, the man wearing the blue denim shirt, his name is Anthony, and he's talking to the red-haired girl. Her name is Anna. So first, let's listen to the conversation, and then we can review that.
Page 37. Conversation. Complete the conversation. Then listen and check your answers. Practice the conversation with a partner.
Anna, you're back. How was your trip to Brazil?
Great, once I got there. My flight was delayed by mechanical problems. By the time my plane finally landed in Rio, my connecting flight had left.
Oh, that's terrible.
I know. Luckily, my friend lives in Rio, so I stayed with her, and the rest of my trip went smoothly.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Thanks. How about you? Didn't you go somewhere recently?
Yeah. I was in Paris for work last month. I hadn't been there before, so I visited lots of museums in my spare time.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, but unfortunately, my flight was delayed too.
Okay, so Anthony and Anna had a problem when they were traveling. And they are talking about their travel experience. So some bad travel events. So let's see, Anthony and Anna. So Anthony is the man first. Anna, you're back. She was traveling. How was your trip to Brazil? Great. Once I got there. My flight was delayed by mechanical problems. So the airplane had some engine problem. So her flight was delayed. Her flight was going to leave at 8 o'clock, but it left 3 hours later. By the time my plane finally landed in Rio, so finally landed, it took a long time. By the time my plane finally landed in Rio, my connecting flight had left. So she had a connecting flight. Her flight went to Rio, then she had to take another flight to go to another city, maybe Sao Paulo or to Manaus in the Amazon. I don't know. But her plane finally landed in Rio but it was late and her connecting flight had left. So it's a big problem. Oh, that's terrible. So bad. I know. Luckily we have some good news. So the first part was a problem. Her flight was delayed. Her plane landed in Rio, but it was late, so her next plane had gone. Oh, that's terrible. I know. Luckily, my friend lives in Rio. Ah, that's lucky. So I stayed with her. So her first plane was delayed. It landed in Rio late. Her connecting flight had already gone, but luckily her friend lives in Rio, so I stayed with her. And the rest of my trip went smoothly. It went well. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. So I'm happy that it went smoothly. Thanks. How about you? Didn't you go somewhere recently? Yeah, I was in Paris for work last month. I hadn't been there before. So I visited lots of museums in my spare time. Wow, that's great. Yeah, but unfortunately, fortunately, something good happened. Unfortunately, my flight was delayed too. So Anthony's flight was also delayed. So he was late for something. Okay. So with that, we can check the video. We can see Anthony and Anna. They are talking about the bad travel experience. So let's listen and then we can look at some questions. Okay, try again. There we go.
Anna! You're back! How was your trip to Brazil?
Great once I got there. My flight was delayed by mechanical problems. By the time my plane finally landed in Rio, my connecting flight had left.
Oh, that's terrible.
I know. Luckily, my friend lives in Rio, so I stayed with her. The rest of my trip went smoothly.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Thanks. How about you? Didn't you go somewhere recently?
Yeah, I was in Paris for work last month. I hadn't been there before, so I visited lots of museums in my spare time.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, but unfortunately, my flight was delayed too.
Okay, let's listen one more time and check the questions.
Anna! You're back! How was your trip to Brazil?
Great once I got there. My flight was delayed by mechanical problems. By the time my plane finally landed in Rio, my connecting flight had left.
Oh, that's terrible.
I know. Luckily, my friend lives in Rio, so I stayed with her. The rest of my trip went smoothly.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Thanks. How about you? Didn't you go somewhere recently?
Yeah, I was in Paris for work last month. I hadn't been there before, so I visited lots of museums in my spare time.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, but unfortunately, my flight was delayed too.
Okay, so we can say true, false, or I don't know. We had Anna and Anthony. So Anna went to Brazil. Is it true, false, or we don't know? Okay, if you remember, Anthony said, Anna, you're back. How was your trip to Brazil? So Anna went to Brazil. Anthony went to Brazil with Anna. Okay, Anthony said, "You're back." So Anthony didn't go to Brazil. Anna's flight was delayed. True, false, or we don't know. Anna said, "My flight was delayed by mechanical problems." So her flight was delayed. Anthony's flight was also delayed. If you remember at the end, Anthony said, "Yeah, but unfortunately, my flight was delayed too." Anna missed her connecting flight. True. Anna's first flight, her flight to Rio, was delayed. It arrived late, so her next flight had gone. She had to catch the flight the next day. Anna spent the night in Rio. True. Luckily, my friend lives in Rio, so I stayed with her. Anthony has been to Paris many times. False. Anthony had never been to Paris. So he said, "I was in Paris for work last month. I hadn't been there before. So I visited many museums." And the last one, we don't know. Anna has been to Paris? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. She just said, "Ooh, that's nice." Okay, so let's look at this next exercise. We can see these adverbs, ly, ly, ly. Finally, luckily, recently, smoothly. By the time my plane finally landed in Rio. So you can say finally if something happens, but it happens late. It happens late. By the time my plane finally landed in Rio. My friend lives in Rio, so I stayed with her. So here she had her problem, but luckily something good happened. My friend lives in Rio, so I stayed with her. The rest of my trip went smoothly. So smooth is very soft and something goes very well. If you ride a bicycle or drive a car on a very nice road, it's very smooth. Your journey goes smoothly on the road. But if the road is bumpy like this, then it's very roughly. It doesn't go smoothly. There are many problems. But smoothly, there were no more problems. Didn't you go somewhere recently? So recently is in the last month or the last few days. So we can ask, what have you been doing recently? I've been making these videos at home. And that brings us to the end of the first video. We can end it there. In the next video, we'll start with the language practice and watch some videos and do some listening exercises. Okay, so we can stop there.